Hello friends and welcome back to the channel. Got a little bit of a different kind of video for you today. I want to talk a little bit about Lady Deathstrike, who is a champion that I really like, I really enjoy playing, do think she's very good, but also why I think that for the time being that she is a very poor candidate to take up to rank 3. So first off, I want to give you a little bit of context. I've been hanging on to this rank 3 tech gem for a while now. I think we got it during the summer offers in July, so like a month and a half or so now I've had it. Anyways, I was originally saving it for Deathless Vision, but after playing with him a bit at rank 2, found him a little bit underwhelming and kind of then walked back that decision, which meant I had to try and decide on another tech champ to rank up, and one of the options here is Lady D, and here we are. Now, if you're not familiar with Lady Deathstrike, she is a great champ. As I said a minute ago, she's a fantastic mutant killer. She is the best Weapon X counter in the game. She only deals physical damage, including rupture debuffs, which really makes her stand out in the tech class, right? Because the tech class, a lot of energy-based damage. But what makes her unique among every other champ in the game is how her rupture debuff damage scales. Now, with most champions who have damage over time effects, the damage of those effects scales with their attack rating. So the higher the rank, the higher the rarity, the more attack you're going to get, and thus the more damage you're going to be dealing from those effects. Especially if that champ also has a way of increasing their attack rating on their own, so like a champ with a Fury buff, for example. So somebody like Venom is a really good example of this, and that's why you see such a huge difference in his output between rank 2 compared to rank 3, because not only is his attack rating scaling, he can possibly gain multiple Fury buffs, those also scale with rank, and his bleeds become extremely potent. So Deathstrike is different because her rupture potency is totally unaffected by her attack rating, and instead scales solely on her armor rating. And she does have some ways to increase that armor rating during the fight itself. So similar to a champion with a Fury buff, that rupture potency isn't a flat value, and it will scale up a little bit over the duration of the fight. And also at 7-star rarity, you have the stat focus. I use the armor focus on my Deathstrike. That gives her a little bit more rupture potency. So I decided to do the math and kind of put together what the maximum possible potency for a single rupture debuff is, and I'll put all that data on the screen here for you. So you can see here we've got her base armor that's just built into her kit. She can gain up to 1 armor up buff, that happens at the start of the fight. You've got a little bit of a bonus from the armor stat focus, which I just mentioned a moment ago. And then she can gain up to 7 armor up passives when she's duped, which mine is duped. And then finally, she gets, I think, a 3-ish% potency increase from the dupe. Mine is SIG 20, so it's like 3%, and I think it scales up to 10% at SIG 200, so it's not a lot of bonus in total. And then a rupture debuff is 75% of her armor rating, so each rupture debuff can do a maximum of about 2,800 damage at rank 2, which is where mine is right now. And she can apply a lot of these rupture debuffs. If you've played her at all, you know that rupture damage doesn't look like much on the screen, but it adds up very quickly, especially if you're maintaining like 20 or 25 of them. I've had like something like 30 or 35 before at once. So I'm looking at these numbers and I'm thinking to myself, you know, armor is a stat that really doesn't scale that well with rank, and since so much of her damage feels like it's dependent on those rupture debuffs, I found myself wondering if there was any actual benefit to be gained by taking her up to rank 3. So what I did was I ran these same numbers for a rank 3 Deathstrike on the CCP beta, same SIG, and yeah, as you can see here, there is virtually no difference in the potency of a rupture debuff between a rank 2 and rank 3 Deathstrike. In fact, less than 100 points of damage total. And even if you have, you know, let's say 20 of those going at a time, that's 2,000 total damage that you're missing out on. That's really the difference of having like 19 ruptures versus 20, if you think about it from that angle. All right, so these numbers definitely surprised me a bit, but I thought to myself, surely she's going to feel different to play at rank 3 than she does at rank 2, right? So what I did was I took her into fights against 4 different sized health pools, ranging from a short fight against a BG's or war sized health pool, about 260,000 health, all the way up to a fight in the Labyrinth of Legends with a health pool about 1.5 million hit points. And I did these fights with my rank 2 Deathstrike, and then I ended up ranking her up on the CCP beta server to rank 3, and I did the fights again. Same masteries, same rotation, no synergies, no boosts. Can't really account for like variance in defender AI, but everything else I tried to keep exactly the same. So let's go ahead and take a look at the rank 2 numbers here first. So for each of these fights here, I have the time the fight took, and then this percentage that you're seeing here, this is the percentage of her damage output in that fight that came just from the rupture debuffs. And you can get that information from the end of fight screen. So you can see here that as the health pools increase, the rupture debuffs become a more important part of her total damage output, and up to 2/3 of it, in fact, in those last 2 fights. It kind of like levels off or even starts to revert a bit, somewhere in that like 1 million health range, but up to 2/3 of her damage output is from those rupture debuffs. Now, I was a bit surprised by the rupture potency numbers that I showed you just a minute ago. So you can imagine how taken aback I was when I compared these fight times and percentages to the same fights that I later did with the rank 3. And yeah, the first thing I want to point out here is how there's very little variance in the fight times. An entire rank higher, and she was only 1 second faster in a short fight. And in the largest health pool, she was only 18 seconds faster. Just really eyebrow-raising stuff for me. The other thing I want you to notice is that the percentages for her rupture debuffs are lower in every fight as a rank 3, meaning that at a higher rank, her rupture damage has now become less important to her overall damage output. Or putting that another way, the increase in attack rating that she's getting at rank 3 is obviously making her basic attacks hit harder, which is in turn slowing her ability to ramp up the armor up passives and thus limiting her rupture debuff potency. So based on these numbers, the only real benefit for taking her up to rank 3 is the health increase, and frankly, there's way too little of a return on investment for me to do that. Okay, so where does this leave Deathstrike for me, right? Well, I still think she's a great champ. I still like her quite a bit. I've used her a lot in war. I don't expect that to change. She is one of the best champions in the game at punching up. But for the moment, I'm definitely not going to be taking her up to rank 3. Well, not yet, anyway. Okay, what do I mean here? So when I was looking at these numbers, I kept coming back to the idea that her rupture damage became less important with the higher rank, and I suspected that this was probably going to continue at ranks that we don't even have access to yet, which for 7 stars, 7 stars go all the way up to rank 6, so we're only at rank 3. We've got 3 more ranks to go, right? So I ended up chatting for a little bit with the balance designer who worked on her, and he pointed me to the forum post that the rebalancing team put out late last year, and I'll bring that up here on screen for you. I want to highlight one specific section here. It says, there was initial concern about the way she scales off of armor and not base attack. We investigated her scaling at different future ranks and wanted to see if it fell in line with comparables in both damage and class, which means, is she going to be performing at a higher rank comparably to other good attackers in the tech class, which it did. Her lower rarities are substantially stronger than her counterparts. So, you know, sure enough, they had already come to kind of the same conclusion that I'm finding out now, only they had the actual data to support it because they clearly had tested her at ranks which we don't yet have available in the game. All that I found very, very interesting. This tells me that although my numbers show very little value right now in taking her up to rank 3, I do think there will be certain value in taking her up to rank 4, rank 5, rank 6, because at those ranks, her basic attacks are going to be a much more important part of her total damage output, and the ruptures will become less important. And since her attack rating does scale normally with rank, as her basic attacks become more important to her damage output, they're also going to be stronger, and her total damage output is actually going to increase. So I think when R4s are new and rank 3s are way more common than they are now, she'll be a really good candidate for taking to rank 4 right away. So yeah, that's about it for this one. I found all of this like really interesting to kind of research and walk through. Lady Deathstrike, just a fascinating champ to me because of how unique that scaling is. There really is no other champion in the game like her right now. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. If you made it this far into the video, you can leave me a comment below that says Deathstrike 3, you're out. Be sure to let me know also what you think about everything that I've kind of talked about in this video. Does the scaling bug you? Is this going to prevent you from ranking her up? Did you choose to rank her up anyways? Really curious to see what everybody out there is thinking and feeling. As always, thank you very much for watching. We'll see you again next time.